Hey guys, and welcome to a new Age of Dinosaurs. Yes, it is time for Gary to take his rightful place as the god Ark of Sotek. I'm a rubber duck of war leading the force of Lizardmen up against Lunacy and his vampire counts. I believe that these are both our main factions going toe-to-toe against each other in a tournament setting, so this should be a pretty exciting game. Some of you who watch my live streams may have seen this battle already, but we're going to be breaking it down in a lot more detail. So let's pop the slow motion into action and get this underway. So for our forces, we've gone relatively small and elite, and we're trying a new trick or two that we do have stored up our sleeves. We have some Saurus warriors guarding the flanks with a triple Temple Guard central core, including the Star Chamber Guardians, some of the most fearsome troops in the old and new world combined. These glorious boys will fight to the death in the name of the children of the old ones, particularly for a Slann, and we have one here today. The Slann Mage Priest of Light Magic has been notoriously good in this matchup for quite some time. Coming in with Banishment, Shield of the Old Ones, and all the useful items and abilities. But spell-wise, we have Bronus Time Warp. Area of Effect increased to speed, but more importantly, 24 melee attack. Bear that in mind, because that's going to come into importance a little bit later on. With a net of Amantalk to pin troops in place, pin in Blood Knights, pin in Terrorgeists and other such troops, and Fire's Protection, when Overcast does become Area of Effect. You can see how this is going to go. We want a big old juicy blob fight. Look at this guy's hat as well. That's a really cool little headwear he has. We do have double Bastiladon, Ark of Sotek here, so we have two of them, both of them are double chevroned up, and yes, lo and behold, they have been changed and buffed. The Ark of Sotek ability, it is completely changed. The old one, straight out of the window into the dumpster outside. The new one is here, Sotek's Poison. The way this works is in the same way of your usual kind of Claw of Nagash style of effect, where it drains all nearby enemy units. Does not heal though, which of course is one thing, but still, damaging all enemy units in a drain effect is very powerful indeed. However, it's a bit weaker than something like the Claw of Nagash and so forth, simply due to the fact that it has to be activated. It does last 28 seconds, which is a really good time, but then you have to wait 60 seconds before you can use it again. But again, it's on a heavily armoured dinosaur, making it a bit tougher to take down. We do have some Skin Cult of Javelins in the back here, just to try to throw their javelins in there at the enemy and be a pain in the butt. And we have the Pale Death. Let's give him a little chin scratch there, just to let him know. Though he may be blind, he's still one of our favourites. Now, the Pale Death is quite expensive for what he does and bring to the table. You might think, why don't you go for a Skink Oracle instead? Well, although he does bring poison attacks, which is quite nice to the battlefield against some of the large entities to support the Temple Guard, he has Primeval Roar, plus 24 melee attack. Yes, you're right. I know what you're thinking already. Bronus Time Warp and Primeval Roar, that's plus 48 melee attack on Temple Guard. That can destroy pretty much anything. For my opponent, we do have zombies dotted through the front line, backed up by triple Graveguard with great weapons, always a fantastic choice. We do have some Crypt Horrors, a nice little air core of Fellbats dotted all the way along. We have a Von Carstein Vampire Lord with a Hellsteed here, coming in a Flock of Doom, which is very powerful at the moment and can be a good counter to our box build. We have Raised Dead, Invocation of the Heg, and Storm of the Night. We have a little Necromancer battery down on the ground, and it looks like the Vampire Death does have Spirit Leech, so looking for some Flock of Doom, Spirit Leech spam shenanigans. We have some Cane Wraiths down here, as well as a double Vargulf on the left-hand flank to try to cycle charge my single entities into oblivion, and this is certainly a good competitive build. Often people will go Trill Blood Knights or the Terrorgeists up in the sky, but double Vargulf can certainly get the job done, and does allow you to spend a little bit more money on Graveguard and going multi-casters to really try to bring that magic damage to the forefront. Pale Death is going to vibe forward a little bit, just floating towards the enemy, and shall be shooting in, aiming at those Crypt Horrors, doing some pretty nice damage out the gate, killing one model, and that's something Troglodons in general are very good at. They'll kill models for you, meaning they're not very good against mid-tier to low-tier cavalry, but up against elite ones like Quest Knights, Demigryph Knights, killing the model a shot certainly isn't too shabby. So my opponent is going to be coming in here with the Vargulf, so we're going to catch him with an Overcast net of Amantalk, try to bring the pain here with the Skink Cohorts of Javelins, and the Temple Guard plus the Troglodon, all firing in. I want to try to nuke one of these Vargulfs as quickly as possible. Is it going to work? Who knows? We're certainly doing a decent amount of damage, however. And you see these zombies and Cane Wraiths also getting caught a little bit before the Area of Effect here. Area of Effect spells, including nets, are currently a little bit buggy. Vargulf is going to fall back, only taking about a third damage, so nothing out of the ordinary. Vargulfs can take a lot of damage on the way in, but they do manage to escape. Temple Guard are lining up now. Star Chamber Guardian's going to be receiving a charge from the Graveguard, but this is where the Bastiladons come into play. They are now the masters of clearing out chaff. Something they could do before, but now are far more adept at doing so. And the Temple Guard protect them from the large entities. At least that's the thinking behind this type of build. Likewise, the Pale Death is firing in at these single entities where possible. And we are going to get a big, fat, overcast Flock of Doom coming down, catching all our units, which isn't something we're a big fan of. Short of the odd ones goes down, and we're going to be pulling back the Pale Death through the Temple Guard. I do not want to duel these Vargulfs in hand-to-hand combat. You can see the mighty Bastiladon has popped its ability, and the zombies suddenly get flattened all around it. Graveguard, though, are made of rather sterner stuff here and are actually holding the line a little bit, but both the Garys done a good job eviscerating the enemy front line. We're also going to be dropping a fat banishment on the Cane Wraiths, and magic damage against them, of course, it makes sense to all of you, I'm sure, getting through their physical resistance and doing some nice work. My opponent is going for a snipe attempt here on the Slann Mage Priest. Of Quetzal is keeping him buffed up and alive at the moment. And both the Garys are going to come in to try to protect their Liege Lord. And this is the problem with Slans. They are thick boys, and they got relatively decent melee stats, but people do like to target them down. So in comes the Pale Death. With the buffed up stats, is rocking ridiculous, insane work here. But a large Flock of Doom is going to come down, catching practically our entire build, which isn't good at all. A big flustercluck of violence is going on now. Don't know if you guys can make out what's happening, but basically Temple Guard swinging those halberds around, trying to carve out the opponent. Both the Garys doing a good job, and the Pale Death is basically a non-frenzy, non-anti-large Carnosaur, so it can still do some pretty decent work. One Vargulf does get punted down there by a Bastiladon. Bryn's Time Warp still popped, and them increasing their melee attack to 48. Not shabby whatsoever. We can see a Mortal Will has been popped down on the Vampire of Death. However, we do manage to catch the Vargulf in a net, and I'm trying to focus it down with all the Temple Guard where possible, and both Garys in unison pop in that Ark of Sotek ability, and you can see the zombies really are starting to suffer. A lot of the Graveguard are still fighting on. Another Flock of Doom comes in, catching all my Temple Guard. Primeval, though, buffing up their melee attack once more. And the Garys, with all these buffs, Shield of the Old Ones popped, are really giving a number to the Vargulfs, who are fleeing for their life. And the Flustercluck continues. Temple Guard, though, starting to look pretty beleaguered. A lot of their leadership is dropping quite low. Source Warriors, however, a solid backbone nonetheless. If we zoom in here a little bit, oh my god, Gary! The Revenge of Gary. These are all the times you called me a meme. All the times you thought I was a joke. Comes in there and slams that Vargulf in the flank with his horn, gouging big wounds into the side of the Vargulf. And his brother is here to support as well. Alongside the Pale Death, a load of my opponent's build is starting to crumble. And if we can get rid of the infantry core, these single entities are far less scary. And that's something I think the Arks could certainly do. The Graveguard are starting to move in. The Source Warriors are going to be quite comfortable in dealing with them in their weakened state at the moment. Another nasty Flock of Doom does come in, catching the Star Chamber Guns and Temple Guard. It looks like it may finish off the majority of my ground core here, but not before the enemies is done for as well. You can see the Graveguard trying to fall back at the moment, buying time for them to maybe be healed up in the future. Vargulfs are cycle charging down the Bastiladons, but they are quite weakened themselves now as well. And we still have the Pale Death alive in here, and he's popped onto guard mode. So though the Graveguard may be surrounding him, he's still just shooting his shots in, launching from long range, applying pressure, and this is something I really like about the Pale Death. Yes, it can tussle in combat, but if your opponent is going to play this game of I'm going to pull out my Vargulfs and then charge back in, that is now fine with the Lizardmen if the Pale Death is still alive, because it can shoot at them and punish them for not remaining in combat and trying to kill it. We drop a little cheeky banishment down to try to finish off these Graveguard. I think the Pale Death actually shot a Saurus in the back of the dome there. No mercy, but he is blind, so it's not your fault, man. It's not your fault. He's trying his best here. Both the Bastiladons are still alive. Likewise, the Slann is given as good as he gets in melee combat. Crypt Horrors seem to be going down at the moment. More shots coming in, making that Vargulf reconsider its life choices in siding with evil here. And it's starting to crumble a little bit, which is certainly good news for me. My opponent is trying his best right now to snipe out the Slann Mage Priest, which 100% is a great idea. However, a Neo Vamantok has gone down on him, plus a Shield of the Old Ones coming down. It is looking a little bit bleak, with one Vargulf going down to the threat of the Pale Death, who's actually going to move into hand-to-hand combat here, just to support the Bastiladons, who are ramrodding at the Von Karstein Lord, doing some massive damage on the charge. Some of the little skinkies have somehow held onto their javelins and come back into the fray in the late game, raining those poison shots down upon the Varghulf from afar, and once more the Bastiladon hits the Varghulf to the curb before stomping his brains out. Well played to my opponent, but what can you do up against the might of the Ark of Sotek? Fantastic game, though, a Pyrrhic victory. The majority of our forces were dead by the end game, and though the Temple Guard was still there, they were so beleaguered at that point. One more Flock of Doom probably would have finished them off, but look at the Bastiladons chevroning up, and well played to Lunacy, who is a fantastic tournament player. Always good to face him on the battlefield. Always scary when you go up against his vampire counts. We did get the favourable engagement, though, with the Lizardmen, so you knew it was going to be a fun fight, and it really was, so well played to him in what is definitely considered a bad matchup for the vampire counts, although nowhere near as bad as it once was. We are going to get to the damage dealt and damage value of all these units in just a second, because the Arks of Sotek performed so amazing. I'm very excited to dig into that. But before we get to that point, I hope you guys really did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up just down below underneath, as well as commenting what was your favourite moment of the battle. What do you think of the new and improved Ark of Sotek? I'm a massive fan. It is by no means OP or anything, but it can actually now pay for itself. Yes, I love it. I love the fact that it can pay for itself and actually be a viable option. It's so cool to see this unit, which as long as it's been out has generally been considered a meme, actually be powerful and have uses in particular matchups. Really good at clearing out chaff. I can see it being good against Tomb Kings, though you obviously are a bit of a problem for it because it's not very good at juking. But particularly in this matchup up against the Vampire Counts, it may well become meta because it really can clear out chaff quite quickly. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. If you don't have any thoughts, feel free to yell quack at me. It is an absolute pleasure to read through your guys' comments and see what you thought of the battlefield. And yeah, the support's been pretty wild in all of my latest streams and videos. They're all doing really well, and I really do appreciate you guys. So yeah. Also, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, for whatever bizarre reason you know Nakai would want you to. It gives you guys a little bit of a heads up, helps the channel out considerably as well. We're on the road to 6k. I think at 7,500 subs we'll probably do another giveaway, and maybe of like a Lord of the Rings duck or something. I'm open to options though for ideas, and we'll do a special live stream. So that is the next goal for us. But anyway, as I said before, well played to Lunacy. And let's hop into this. Actually, just before then, there are links down below in the description. If you want to support me via Patreon, for example, or join my Discord where you can send me replays, get involved with events I host, and all that kind of cool stuff. But on to the good stuff. Slam Mage Priest of Light. How did he fare? Pretty damn insane. Those nets were really quite nice. Doing good damage early on to the Varghulf kind of keeps them out of the game a little bit and just applies a little bit more pressure. So we didn't use the nets to the greatest of our time. Like, we could have netted them when they're a bit more amongst us, but early damage is good damage at the end of the day. And mainly being brought as a support caster, we used Brandon's Time Warp, Forest Protection and so forth. Still getting 1.2k damage value is really not shabby whatsoever, and also getting rid of those nasty Cane Wraiths is quite nice. Source Warriors performed amazing. 1.3k damage value, 615, and a lot of this is them punching above their weight up against Graveguard, Varghulfs and other such units, but the buffs from the Primeval Roar and the Time Warp really do turn them into lawnmowers, and my opponent was focusing down the Temple Guard instead of them, so that allowed them to shine even more. As for the Temple Guard, 2,204 damage value, 759 and 1,000, so this unit certainly performed above and beyond the others, but at the end of the day, they all did a good job protecting those arcs, and that's what their role was here. The little skink cohorts of javelins got forced off a little early on, and I kind of forgot about them. They came back in the late game, neither paying for themselves, but it's always nice to have long-range pressure. And the Bastiladons, the Ark of Sotek, Gary and Barry. They were both 2 bronze chevron to start with, but one is now silver, the other triple bronze. 1,536 damage value, nearly 14k damage dealt, 53 kills, amazing work from them. Again, the combination of the Pale Death buff and the bonus Time Warp just means they can actually go toe-to-toe with enemy large creatures as well and hold their own. And the other one not performing far worse, 1.2 damage value from him as well. So both of the arcs paying for themselves, which is amazing. And having more to give at the end, both being healthy at least for the end game. Pale Death was a really nice utility unit here. I think this is one of the matchups it can certainly shine in. You hide it amongst Temple Guard, and your opponent can try and snipe it out, but with buffs, it can fight back. 62 kills, 1,980 damage value, and at the end you could see it just picking apart at those Varghulfs, playing with its food, doing some nice damage, which adds up over the course of the battlefield. So all around, this is actually a really fun build. I recommend trying it out, see what you think of it, And yeah, work on it yourself and see how you improve. Any new players watching, by the way, always feel free to steal my builds and steal builds other people have put out. But just know that if it's a build that works for someone, it might not work for you. So try it out and then alter it to fit your playstyle. That's my advice to the new guys out there. As for Lunacy, Von Carstein, Vampire Lord, 2,277 damage value. Over 15k damage dealt and 48 kills. An invaluable tool for him today. Those Flock of Dooms really did cause me quite a few problems. The other casters, unfortunately, not doing too much. I don't think Spirit Leech was used that much. Instead, all the Flock of Dooms were kind of coming out of the bag. The zombies got flattened, as is to be expected. And the poor Cane Wraiths, 542 damage value is not terrible, but that banishment really did put them in a body bag. And the Graveguard struggled. Often you see Graveguard get more damage value in this. It's still not terrible. I mean, 769 is respectable. But the others, 442, 647, not quite so good. And they're the tools to kill the Temple Guard. You need them. You need to kill the Temple Guard so they can't protect the large entities from your large entities. But the Arks do cancel them nicely. Felbats were simply here to die. They didn't really have any good targets. But I like the preparation in case I went for a tic-tac-toe air build. The Vargulfs, nearly 800 damage value, just shy, and 728. Did struggle to get into the game a little bit. Did do good attempted sniping here and there, but just due to the fact that the Temple Guard was still around into the late game, despite the Flock of Dooms and Graveguard, caused them all kinds of problems, likewise for the Crypt Horrors. Hope you guys enjoyed this replay. It was a really good fun one to cast. Until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.